about the what's known as the Lay of the Last Survivor, and these happens in lines 2247 to 2256. It's a very much talked about portion of the text. The Lay of the Last Survivor reinforces the themes: the transitory nature of life, meaning all power and wealth must pass. No human can avoid death. The cycle of violence, pride, and it also reinforces this parallel structure. So those are the four things that we're going to talk about today. So the Lay of the Last Survivor is a story about really where the dragon's treasure comes from. Why the dragon has his treasure, where their treasure comes from, why is it buried underground. And the story is there is this man, the last of his people, and he's burying the treasure, and there's actually going to be a curse on the treasure. We'll find out later. He's burying the treasure because it's useless to him. He has no need for treasure. I mean, what is treasure without human companionship? There's no, you can't like play a harp. I mean, you can, but you can't, there's no one else to enjoy it. Treasure is only useful in the company of other people. If you have $1 million and there's no one on the earth besides yourself, what good is it? Now remember, one of the big things in Beowulf is this idea of exile. So this last survivor, in some sense, is an exile because he's the only person left. And exile, again, is the worst thing that can happen in this society, in this culture. Without companionship, there is nothing. You are nothing. So you have this last survivor, and again, this reinforces the transitory nature of life, the idea that everything must pass. Life is short, it's fleeting. Riches are useless without others to enjoy them. Some questions to bring up is, why is this guy the last survivor? You should note that there's a melancholy tone. There's a sense of sadness in the actual words and poem. This guy, it seems, is the last of his people because the people have been wiped out through war. So this can be connected to this idea of the cycle of violence. How do they obtain all these riches? However they attain them, and in Beowulf text you could assume through war, because that's one of the trophies of war are the things that you take from other people to display honor, and the people are wiped out. They're gone. He's the last one of them. There's nothing there. The other things to think about is metaphorically. Pride. Treasure, for the dragon can't use treasure. It just sits on it and hoards it, and there's sort of a pride in having this treasure. Note the dragon is completely upset, enraged, when one piece of this treasure that it cannot use, is taken. So much so that he burns everything in Geatland. He burns even Beowulf's mead hall, the center of his social society. But this can also be related to Beowulf. Beowulf goes out and fights this dragon by himself. Why? Well, when you look at Beowulf and Beowulf's treasure are all these great deeds that have been piled up and makes his story, makes him great. Yes, Beowulf has protected his people from other countries, other peoples, because of his prowess on the battlefield, because of his reputation. That reputation is his treasure. Note, in old age, that means nothing. Once he dies, that treasure will be gone. It will be buried with him. Sort of like the dragon's treasure is at the end of the story. It's buried with Beowulf. It does his people no good. Beowulf's great deeds do his people no good when he's gone. Beowulf one of the ways he may have failed as a king is he has failed to actually bring up a hero that would replace him as the hero warrior of the Geet nation. He has taken on that role as well as a king for 50 years. Some things to think about the parallelism. The Last Survivor, the Lay of the Last Survivor parallels the last part of this story. When you look at all four funerals, this is the third of the fourth funerals. If you look at all the funerals, they sort of link together. You have that first funeral of Shield, which is he is the beginning of this great Danish dynasty. And then you have the second funeral with Hildeberg losing her son and brother on the battlefield in this cycle of violence, a cycle of warfare, which will also end up, claiming her husband. And that shows that this cycle, which Shield started, is continuing. And then you have this delay of the Last Survivor. Again, the cycle of violence. This is the last guy left in his group. These people have been wiped out. Treasure is no longer useful to him. And then you have Beowulf's funeral. And Beowulf's funeral is really the end. The cycle of violence will wipe out Beowulf's people. They will disappear from the face of the earth. This Lay of the Last Survivor sets that up as parallels what is going to happen when Beowulf dies. The Swedes are going to overrun the Geats, and they will exist no longer, just in memory. Sort of like the treasure buried underneath the earth. Okay, so hopefully you can connect this Lay of the Last Survivor, to the transitory nature of life, all things must pass, to the cycle of violence, which we've talked about throughout this book, to the idea of pride, the dragon's pride and Beowulf's pride, and also talk about the parallel structure in it. All right, we'll talk again.